All right, so as Tara said, I am with Seize the Day. It stands for Stay Educated About Suicide. And I started this foundation 5 years ago in April 2012. It started for a number of reasons, and primarily because I struggled myself with depression and mental health. I am also a suicide attempt survivor, and it's taken me a long time to be able to say that, but I have given myself to this organization and this nonprofit, this mission, this cause of saving our youth from the most tragic events that could possibly happen. So I focus a lot on suicide prevention. I go into local schools, worked very closely with Ms. Dorgan at Ryle High School, and I talk to the youth primarily. That's my main focus. What are their challenges? What are their struggles? We talk about the signs of suicide and what to look for and keys to identify amongst their friends, even their families, who they can talk to. Kind of the 101 information rundown on suicide prevention and mental health. So just a quick introduction, that's what I do, and I spend most of my free time dedicated to Seize the Day. I've talked to probably over 15 schools now, over 6,000 kids. It's been going, and a lot of people ask me, well, Dania, I mean, you've been so busy. How do you feel going into all these schools? And I can't say that I'm necessarily happy that I'm getting asked into so many schools because this has become such an epidemic in our tri-state area. I can tell you 5 years ago, I went to maybe 2 or 3 schools. Now I'm visiting schools 4 or 5 times a month. So if that just tells you that there's not enough that we can possibly do to kind of catch up first and really make an impact and save our youth. If there's anything that I can do to help with that, I am fully dedicated and at your service. So that's Seize the Day.
Hi, sorry, good evening. I'm Ms. Dorgan. I'm a teacher at Ryle High School. I've been a teacher at Ryle High School for almost 14 years. I actually teach psychology, general, and AP. And when I started teaching psychology, there wasn't a whole lot of talk about suicide. But then students started coming to me about various issues, and they don't prepare us in our undergrad for teacher education about how to handle depression, anxiety, at least back then they didn't. And so I wanted to be able to help my students, so I actually got my master's and my rank 1 in school counseling. And when I started my school counseling program, that's when I became more aware of suicide statistics, which were alarming. But I also know what it's like to teach at that school where everybody says it won't happen here, that happens at other schools. And I was unfortunately there when we lost 2 of our students to suicide, 2 years in a row, a freshman and a senior. So it's been my goal to try to make sure that our students know that they're never alone, that there's always someone there to help them. There's all these resources to try to be a resource for parents. I know to me as a parent, I have 9-year-old triplets. I can't imagine what it might be like for you not to know what's going on in your teenager's life, or to be concerned about would they maybe actually consider or be considering taking their own life, and how to respond to that. And so working with Dania and getting involved in youth mental health first aid, I've developed those tools and I try to share those with everybody. And I've been very fortunate that the district has supported me 100% in terms of, at our high school, all of our seniors, juniors and seniors that are in psychology, either in general or AP, they go through youth mental health first aid. They are certified as first aiders. And we find that that really kind of opens the door, and we find that there's more talk, and that people understand now at our school that you can talk about suicide. It is something you should talk about. It's not something that should be hush-hush. For the longest time, cancer was whispered about, and now we have peak outs. My goal is to eventually have green outs.
I'm Julie Wagner. I work for Catholic Charities in Latonia for the Diocese of Covington. I am a licensed professional clinical counselor, and so my role for Catholic Charities is as a high school-based mental health counselor. Boone County is one of the high schools that I serve students, that I meet with students individually. And so the services I provide, high school, as you're well aware, is such a challenging time of just so many different transitions and changes. And I offer a space where students can come during the school day free of charge to the student. And we meet on an individual basis, ongoing if needed, on weekly to bi-weekly, just offering support, helping them in a way an outpatient counselor would, but like I said, just eliminating the need to go outside. So we create different goals, and my main goal in meeting with these students is letting them know, much like Tammy said, you're not alone. If nothing else, you know that you have support in school, and really just equipping them with coping skills to manage different stressors that they're experiencing, and hope that just to get through these high school years, that whatever you're experiencing is temporary. There's hope out there. There is more to this. In terms of Catholic Charities and what other services we provide, we offer a wide array of child and family counseling services, including adoption, pregnancy counseling. We have school-based counselors in a number of other Boone County schools, elementary schools and middle schools. This is the only high school that we're actually in the Boone County School District. We also offer housing, disaster relief. One of our biggest ministries is Parish Kitchen. So we offer a number of different services to help families, help individuals, really meet them where they are and help them not just survive, but really help them learn how to thrive. So, thank you.
And I'm Nancy Eigelmiller with the organization 1 in 5. I started the organization about 10 years ago after losing my husband to suicide. For me, there were no signs. He was loud, he was goofy, he was the life of the party for everyone, and he worked at Xavier University, he ran the Gallagher Student Center, he was in charge of student government, he was the soccer coach, and so it came as a total shock to us. But in hindsight, I really learned that there were signs, and that he was so dedicated to that youth population that for me, I have now basically dedicated my life to educating the youth population about the signs and the symptoms of mental health. Our organization has a number of fundraisers that we do, and our real mission is to work with schools directly and to look at what are they doing, what do they have in place, and to do a needs assessment, and then to help them get programs into the schools. We do a lot of fundraising. This last year we donated $250,000 out to schools directly so that they could afford those programs. We work very closely with Children's Hospital in Cincinnati. They have a program called Surviving the Teens, which is a week-long education program. It's evidence-based. It's right now in 24 schools, and I kept saying it has to get bigger. It has to be in more schools. This last year, they started working with Tier 1 training, which is over here in Northern Kentucky. Tier 1 is revamping that program right now, and we will be able to be in 75 schools in 2018. Those are just a couple of the different things that we do. We have a Warrior Run that's it's in the fall. Last year we had about 3,200 runners. It's an evening event. It's a very upbeat event. Because after I lost my husband, I went to some events and they were very sad. It didn't feel good. It made me feel bad. And so I was like, we have to change this. We have to let people have hope and to know that there is a solution out there. So the run is very hopeful. It's a family event. And it's a competition we have a high school challenge and a college challenge. And what that does is it allows the schools to have participation, volunteer hours, and raising funds. And 100% of the money that they raised goes back to them for mental health education. We do a lot of research. One of the brochures I left over there on the table, it's what we call our roadmap. We just got a big grant from Interact for Health to do research around the country as to what programs are working in schools. And out of that, we've created that brochure, and we call it a roadmap. It starts in kindergarten, it goes all the way through to 12th grade with the recommendations of the programs we think should be in place. So what we do, as I said, we'll work with schools to try to implement those programs. And it's not only suicide prevention, it's also trying to teach the kids tools so that they can be There's self-care, there's meditation, there's social and emotional learning. It's a whole combination of different things so that they can now be more settled and they know how to step back from the stress that they feel in their life. So it's many different things. For every school, it's a little bit different, but we're open to talking to anybody. Right now, we are working with the 5 universities in Cincinnati and 12 different high schools directly. So I'll be happy to talk to anybody that is interested. And as I said, we are happy to help you find out ways to fund that as well.
Thank you all for sharing all that information. So that was a lot of information for everybody to kind of go through. And so I'm going to open up the floor if you have questions or discussion points you'd like to talk about. And then I'm actually going to let you talk in the mic.
Oh boy. In hindsight, what were the signs for your husband?
He started pulling away from people. He wasn't, he wrote thank yous to people. He wasn't sleeping. He lost 20 pounds. And it was that pulling back. He was, as I said, he was very goofy, and we told him he was a girl all the time because he was really into watching the Gilmore Girls. And we would have family activities where we would all go to the basement, we would all watch the Gilmore Girls, and the last couple of weeks he would get up in the middle of it and he would just go upstairs and we'd be like, why are you leaving? Like, this is your thing. And he'd be like, oh, I want to do so-and-so, or I want to do so-and-so. So it was those kinds of things.
Well, I'm looking at this pamphlet here.
Mm-hmm.
The first page, possible triggers for teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
I went through all that and never thought about killing myself.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'll stick my neck out and say there's a lot of teenagers who go through that.
Mm-hmm.
How can you tell?
It's hard. I mean, when they're teenagers, it's a very volatile time. And I think that it's really important that you start the conversation very early to educate about that. It's more than just a feeling sad a day. It's feeling sad over a period of time, having changes over a period of time. And I think that if you have that conversation from the time that they're very young, that they're okay with the language, they're okay with talking about their feelings, I think that you can get to those, you can find the kids that are struggling.
And I think just to add to that, there are a number of risk factors for suicide. A number of individuals will experience mental illness throughout their life, but it doesn't mean that all of those individuals have ever had suicidal ideation. Some risk factors would be a family history of suicide or a recent loss of
Genetic?
some sort.
Genetic?
What did you say?
Maybe genetic mental health.
Yes, right. Well, a family history of suicide, but is significant, but and a general mental health for that individual as well. Recent tragedy or loss, sleep deprivation, isolation. So there are a number of different things. Chronic medical illness, access to firearms, frequent or a change in substance use. So you mentioned looking at those signs. It doesn't mean that everyone who's experienced that will have suicidal ideation. There are other risk factors. I think another thing to point out is also the role resiliency plays in an individual's ability to overcome challenges and different stressors, different experiences in their life.
Do you think the cell phones help or make it worse as far as suicide tendencies?
I don't have the updated research. I do. I do. There have been, the studies are just now starting to come out. There was actually an article, if you're interested, it was in the Atlantic, and the title was "We've Lost a Generation to the Cell Phone." And what they found is that the youth population is safer now than they've ever been. They drink less, they drive later, they have sex later, they stay home more. But what's happened is they're isolated.
They're not growing.
What's that?
They're not growing.
No, they're not. They don't have those interactions that we had before. And so it puts them more at risk. And what's happening is the anxiety and the depression is escalating very quickly because of that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? questions or comments or any kind of discussion points?
I would just add to that as well. Like, while I don't have the research, I can just share my experiences in working individually with students and my observations. I think that it's hard for a student to escape certain things now. And what I mean by that is with social media, they have access to that 24/7. And so they're constantly comparing, why am I not included in this? Or, oh, I have to be better than this individual. So I think that adds to the increase in anxiety and depression.
Something to do about it, they're not gonna, manufacturers are not gonna back off.
Oh, they're advertising.
I think it's the resilience. It's like
Right.
you have to actually do things as a parent to build that resilience starting very young in life. You know, so it's a different way of parenting. I mean, it's, and we don't understand because we didn't grow up with it. So there's a big challenge.
At the high school level, it's too late.
It is.
So what do we do at the high school level?
I think that you have to, I mean, it's, their habits are there, and I think you still have to work really hard to try to build that resilience that, you know, in our society, the other problem is this perfectionism notion that we have to be, these kids have to be perfect, and when they fail, they don't know what to do with themselves. And, you know, we have to figure out ways to let them know it's okay to fail.
Yeah, I think instead of prevention at the high school level, it's more of intervention and meeting them where they are and trying to deal with it then.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if this isn't working, but I can talk loud. Did I get it? Oh, there we go. Woohoo, sorry. Being at the high school level, being a teacher, I don't think it's ever too late to intervene with your kids. I know we try as teachers to intervene with them. Some of the things, I can really just talk really loud. Okay. Yes, ma'am. So at the high school level, like some of the things that, you know, like just in my classroom, I try to do things like Wellness Wednesdays or Fabulous Fridays where I actually tell them, I don't want your cell phone out, put it away. Let's do something fun. Let's have a little bit of fun. You're still a kid. Yes, you're a senior. Yes, you're getting ready to go to college in 4 months. But you know what? You still gotta have some fun. Put the cell phone away and let's just do something that doesn't involve academics, that doesn't involve social media, and let's just have some fun. And it can also be doing other things like writing Post-it notes to teachers, or I've sent letters to teachers in the district, had kids write letters to their favorite teachers saying what amazing jobs they've done. Or, you know, I've had them write little notes to somebody that's having a bad day. You know, again, it can be stuff as simple as that. So I don't think it's ever too late, but it does take everybody getting involved and intervening. But to add something earlier to what you were talking about, you know, you're right, teenagers, it can be hard sometimes to differentiate. One of the things that is the hardest thing, I think, for a parent, and it would have to be because, you know, as I said, I've got 9-year-old triplets. And, you know, there was that little 8-year-old in Cincinnati who completed a suicide. My son came home one day and he said, Mom, I just want to kill myself. Now my son's 9. Me being the psych teacher, the school counselor, the suicide prevention specialist, he and I went and sat down and talked, and I actually said to him, are you thinking about killing yourself? That's a hard question to ask. I have to ask that of my teenagers. I never thought I'd have to ask it of my 9-year-old son. The point being, I asked that question because if he is thinking about that, guess what he's gonna tell me? He's gonna tell me yes. But as a parent, the hard part is you gotta be able to do it in a calm manner. You can't overreact. You can't go into hysterics. And you've got to be able to have your game face on and have a plan in place. So if you are concerned about your child and you're like, this is not normal, you know, one of the things that we do in youth mental health first aid is we have to teach people how to say to someone, are you thinking about killing yourself? When they respond to us, okay, what do we do next? And, you know, as a parent, it's very hard. But the fact that I had asked my 9-year-old that says a lot about society today. And I never would have thought that because I guess it's me, I don't know. Because, you know, I would have never thought that 8-year-old in Cincinnati would have felt that way. But my kids will also tell you, they know about my suicide prevention. They talk about it. My daughter comes home and she says, Mom, something happened today and I'm a little worried. Should I be concerned? Should I talk to someone? and we'll talk it over. So I don't think there's ever an age where it's too young now, but it's all about how you approach it too.
I think there's a lot of white noise. I hear a lot of people say, I want to kill myself.
Yeah.
They're saying that so much. They're saying that so much. You know, we're not God. We don't know what's in their mind. Some people will say anything.
Right, you're absolutely correct.
You know, so I know that I appreciate you being there and helping us out. As long as
Yeah.
I wanted to add something. So I am not a parent by any means, but I am one of 8 children, 7 of which are girls. And so I'm the middle child. I have 3 younger than me. The 4 older, we've all, starting with me, I'm 29, so I kind of missed the whole like social media. Facebook was coming out when I was in high school, but I mean, we had flip phones. There wasn't all of this technology that we now have, and sometimes even I, being 29, feel somewhat lost when my younger siblings are talking about social media and Instagram, and now there's something even like more than just Instagram, and you know, just having communication with the students that I work with and I speak to. My program has changed a lot over the span of 5 years. Now we're talking about self-bullying, and I've kind of just, I don't know if I made that up or anyone else is using that term, but self-bullying, what happens is these kids hold their phones and they're like, oh, why did she get the scholarship and I didn't? Oh, why did she get to go on vacation again and I didn't? Oh, he's dating the girl that I wanted to date, and it's constantly beating themselves up over everything they do not have. And why is it this way? And life is not fair. So our perception of reality has been completely and totally twisted. And for a while, it was a little hard for me to understand and wrap my mind around it. But I'm guilty of being 29 and getting on sometimes. A bad breakup. Oh, I can't believe he chose that girl instead of me. You know, we're all guilty of it, but when you are growing and you are developing, the rationale is not the same as we are now. One article I read, and I mean, I see it in my 21-year-old sister who has attempted suicide. She says she's going to kill herself. Guess what? I'm calling 911. I take 0 chances because I have been in a situation one too many times where I did not call 911. When I have literally walked in on one of my best friends' overdose, showing signs, and what was I telling myself? Oh no, I'm the founder of Seize the Day. This could not happen to me. This could not happen. Looking back on it, he showed almost every sign there is to show for someone that attempted suicide. And it was almost too late. Walking in, shaking him, wake up, thinking, this could never happen to me. Or it could never happen to Tammy because she's the psych teacher. And then I had to call 911. From then on, I tell my students that I work with, do not hesitate, call 911. I'm a suicide attempt survivor. If I feel that I should not be alone, I make sure I pick up the phone and I call someone. I don't text someone, I call someone. This disconnection with technology and our generation that is lost, yes, that's the articles that are coming out, but it is, like Tammy said, it is not too late. Research. You're the parent. You are allowed to take their phone and be like, let me see what you are doing. Because nowadays there is so much hidden. Even my own self, taking my sister's phone, I'm like, what on earth? I mean, me being 29, let alone would be able to handle the things that these kids are saying to each other, or what, you know, maybe the validation she's looking for by posting pictures and not getting all of the likes she thought she would get. It's just this constant disappointment. And what's happening is they are setting themselves up for disappointment. And we think that we can't communicate with them anymore. That's not the truth. We have to communicate at their level. How are they communicating with each other? Let's find a way to communicate with them. So now when I go into my presentations, I show them, you know, videos. There's a video very easily on YouTube called Insta Lives. It's a group of kids posting pictures like, okay, I drank a green smoothie, take one sip, throw it in the trash after I take the picture because it's disgusting. But what happens is everyone likes this facade that is not reality. So what's happening to our youth is they're trying to strive for this world that is not real. You know, a girlfriend and a boyfriend take a picture of each other, they're happy, right? And everyone's like, oh, I wish, but really they're fighting behind the scenes. So it's what is going on? Don't be afraid to ask. I had an incident. I talked to students. I had a parent call me and say, I understand my son is talking to you. Can you tell me what he's saying? Absolutely. Because as Tammy said in the brief interview, I tell the kids, first and foremost, I am here, I am your trusted adult. If you tell me anything that puts you in danger or someone else, I am obligated to tell someone. And it's not because I want you to get in trouble, it's because I'm your friend and I care. That is why I'm telling someone, because I care, because I want you here. My parents could not for the life of them understand why I attempted suicide. I grew up in a very conservative household. I am a child of 2 immigrants that moved to America in 1986, and education and perfection were the 2 things that we were born striving for. We took our first breath and it was like, okay, you're gonna be a doctor. And I'm like, I'm drinking milk out of a bottle still. You know, so I had this constant pressure of being perfect. And then without social media, I had my siblings to live up to. 4 older sisters, beautiful, brilliant. One is a dentist, one's a vice principal. And here I am, like the political science kid, you know, and my mom's like, what are you gonna do with political science? Oh my Lord, just go to law school, do something. And I tried every avenue I could to be the perfect child. If it wasn't that I was excelling in my academics, I was excelling in sports, or I would fill my schedule with as many extracurricular activities as I possibly could, just so my parents could be like, I'm proud of you. But what did they really, really care about? They wanted me to do good in school and be the top of my class and to have a successful career. Did I feel that I failed them in every other way? Absolutely. Am I, at this time, upset with my parents anymore? No, because I'm 29 and I realized that we were just misunderstanding each other and that they love me and they want the best for me. And as hard as they were, Danny, you are not allowed to go ice skating on a Friday night. Stay home, clean, do something else other than waste your time, right? Or be with your friends. So I was upset, and when I attempted suicide, I was 22, and I realized I would never, ever, ever do that again. Because I promise you, if anyone had another chance and they were laying on the ER table and they said, here, you're actually going to survive this, they would not do it again. And that's what we have to talk. I am raw. I tell the kids, I attempted suicide. I would never do it again. It was the most lonely time in my life, and I'm here to tell you, you don't have to get that far.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah.
Hello, I actually have 2 things. So I'm not sure which one to go with first. So I'll start with bullying. It's my secret thought process, I don't have the data, but that when someone is bullying a victim, that bully is getting bullied by somebody else. Are there any things in place to possibly unwind the bully? So to help them, is that person's family life abusive? Or I feel like that all has to unwind itself to kind of decrease the bullying. Does that make sense? So that's the first question. And then, so I actually work in the mental health field, and I also volunteer with teenagers here in the area. And what do you do when the parents are the problem? I have kids that come to me, and I encourage them, talk to me, talk to your teacher, your coach, anyone. So I'm super glad that you're in the schools, because the kids have to have another resource when their home is the issue.
So that's a really big question. Does anybody have anything about the bullying cycle or anything like that you've experienced or seen, or data?
I don't have any data, but as a teacher in a school, I mean, bullying's alive and well, unfortunately. And again, I feel like it's worse on social media. Our schools do the best they can to intervene when they can. But you know, we don't have eyes and ears everywhere, and unless a kid tells us what's going on and shows us what's going on, you know, unfortunately, we don't always know. And as teachers, we care. As administrators, we care, and we do our best to, you know, try to stop that. And, you know, there are misconceptions about bullies. They're not always kids with bad home lives. It can be the church-going kid whose dad's the preacher and should know better, but, you know, he feels that's his power and he uses it that way. So, you know, as a teacher, yeah, we take steps, and in our district, we actually have policies that we follow.
And I'm a school employee as well, so I'm a school psychologist, and I'm not on the panel, but I'm going to kind of go over this.
Yay! She's gonna talk.
For me, we spend a lot of time, especially at the middle school, talking about bullying prevention, bystander type things. You know, how to intervene as a bystander, education, awareness, things like that. And we do that at the high school too. I think social media is very difficult because we can't see that, and it, unfortunately, though, all of the impact of social media gets brought into our school a lot, and we don't always have 100% jurisdiction over that. We can manage it when it comes in our school, but when it's happening outside of school, it's very hard. We also spend a lot of time, kind of when we're talking about resiliency, I want to go back to that and say that a lot of our time at the middle school, there's a misconception of what bullying actually is. And so we focus on what's conflict versus what's bullying, and how do we resolve that conflict, you know, because for whatever reason, our students aren't coming with these problem-solving skills of how to deal with peer conflict, you know, and so it's something that we're actually teaching. I think some of it is the disconnect of technology and social media and things like that. But when we have incidents of bullying, we have very strict protocols to follow. So we do have that goes on, but it's just very difficult to get students to share with us what's going on. The same kinds of things I think parents get frustrated with as well. And then when they do share, we intervene. But I think focusing on that education and that social emotional learning piece at a young age, like at the elementary school, about like, how does that feel? What's empathy? How do we teach them to be caring individuals, to be the bystander that stands up and that kind of stuff? It's just really important, and that's a huge focus especially for our elementary and middle schools.
And it sounds like you're more directed at is there a widespread program directed at the bully?
Yeah.
And I don't have an answer for that, but I can tell you that students have been referred to me who have been the bully, we'll say, and I work with them on, well, one, seeing, you know, what's the cause of this, why do you feel the need to act this way, but then also teaching them some of those problem-solving, coping skills of conflict resolution. So this is something that's going on. Not necessarily, she said, there might not be their home life might be very supportive, but there could be something else going on that needs to be addressed. So helping them address that instead of taking someone else down with them and having the power.
And I think your second question was more about parent support and when you're seeing things in the home that they're not getting supported for their mental health needs. So anyone want to kind of address how you deal with that or address that?
That's the problem. And so my role, I sometimes do meet with parents at school if the situation is serious enough. But for the most part, my contact is mainly with the student. And I can make phone calls, but it's really with the student. And my main goal in situations where it sounds like that it's not that the parent is being abusive or neglectful in any way, it's just a misunderstanding, like what Daniel was saying. And I really try to help the students see, okay, we don't have control over your parents, but what do we have control over? And that's you and how you're handling this. So let's see, what are some healthy distracting activities you can do? What are some ways we can help you challenge your thoughts when mom says this or dad says this, so that it doesn't cut deep into your core. And just helping them with, like we've been referencing, those coping skills when things aren't going well. Because we can't always, there are so many things we don't have control over, but really focusing on what they do have control over to get them through.
I think one thing really quickly is also this normalcy that's been happening in our society, like the saying, I'm gonna kill myself, that's not normal. Social bullying in general is not normal. It's become so muted in our society, like these kids that are really being bullied. I mean, things that have helped me communicate with the students is remembering that, you know, they want to be able to relate to someone. So they may look at me when I'm talking to them and have no idea that I was bullied. But I shared my personal stories with them, you know. After 9/11 happened and being Middle Eastern, I was in 8th grade. I was absolutely bullied. And we didn't have a lot of technology, but we had email and I would get death threats. And, you know, 15 years ago, it wasn't okay, and it's still not okay today. So if these students are facing these things, they need to speak up, they need to tell someone. Just because it's been going on for 15 years does not make it okay. And then they sit there and they think, they're like, oh, well, maybe I should tell someone, rather than them taking it out on themselves. And, you know, in the state of Maryland, of course it slipped my mind now. I want to say it's Macy's Law. Is that right? Macy's Law, the 13-year-old that completed suicide, she was bullied online, and her mom took it to the justice system, and now they are in the state of Maryland holding juveniles accountable for bullying on social media. You get penalized up to $500 or a year in prison. They're trying to make this a national, you know, legislative, and which it should be, because the bully needs to take responsibility. And we're not forgetting about the bully, but we want to talk to the bully. But right now, focusing on mental health prevention and suicide awareness, we need to be relatable. If you have stories of being bullied as a child or in your youth, share that with your kids. Show them that you are with them. You are one of them. They came from you. And the only reason you're asking is because you care. But this idea of it being normal, it's absolutely not. So, you know, continue to remind them. And they'll eventually come to you. Those that, not all the time, but the students that really, I can see them when I'm speaking, like, hit home to them. They get teary-eyed. They feel moved. They ask, how can I help? They will if you continue to be persistent and resilient just like they are. Hopefully there's a middle ground.
Any other questions, discussion points at this point?
Do you guys have any statistics on the teen suicides if they come from broken homes?
It crosses all demographics. And, you know, people that struggle with mental health conditions the same way, it crosses all demographic. It's not focused in any area.
And that's why it's really important, why we're talking about mental health awareness, that, you know, I talk to my students all the time. We all know our medical histories, but how many of us know our mental health histories? And if we do know our mental health histories, how many of us actually share that with our family members? Because that could be the difference between life and death, quite honestly. You know, in my family, there's a history of depression and anxiety and bipolar disorder and alcoholism. So I mean, these are things that I'm aware of. And it's important because, you know, if I start to feel a certain way, that could be a red flag to me that, you know what, maybe I'm not okay, but it is okay to go find help. Or, you know what, my child is now exhibiting symptoms of anxiety, and I do have a child with anxiety and ADHD, and, you know, his prognosis looks really good because early on I recognized those signs because I had a mother who was willing to talk about mental health history in our family and was not ashamed of it.
And I think that Children's Hospital is working really hard with all pediatrician offices in the area, that they start to make that part of the yearly checkup is their mental health questions, so that they identify kids very early on. It's part of their medical record. It's just like any other disease. And that really should, the statistic is that by the age of 14, 50% of mental health will have surfaced. By the age of 24, 75%. And on average, it takes 10 years to get service.
Anyone else have any comments or questions? I had something for Miss Dorgan or Tammy. I wanted you to talk a little bit about youth mental health first aid and what that is and what it looks like, and maybe a little bit, you know, how you got involved with that.
Okay. So again, being a teacher at Ryle High School, before we actually had our 2 suicides, it was the year actually of our first suicide. I went through QPR that the district had asked for some people to go through. It was me, Alan Mullins, and Mr. Kozar. We were asked to go and do this, and we went. And then Alan got transferred to a new school, and Mr. Kozar and I were asked to present at our faculty staff meeting, which we did, but it was very brief, as PD sometimes are, maybe too brief. And the thing was that year, what stands out to me is everybody kept saying, why are we doing this? This will never happen here. And within 6 months, we had our first suicide attempt or completion. And it hit us hard. It hit us all very hard. For me, it was, I didn't have the student in class, but I had done some suicide prevention, and he had helped me set stuff up and never said anything to me. I had no idea. So it was always in the back of my head, what did I miss, what did I miss? And of course, the teachers who had him in class, for the classmates, it's not seeing him there, trying to understand why I did it, and then the teacher looking at an empty chair, trying to figure out how do I handle this. It's hard, it's very hard. Suicide impacts everybody, and one of the things that came out of our suicides is some of the kids had talked about, some of them who had thought about attempting or who had attempted in the past said, I never realized how much a suicide impacts people around them. And a year later, we were back in the same position. Another student completed a suicide. So I was like, I can't handle another one. I just can't. I was on the debriefing. I helped lead the debriefing at our high school both times. It's something that's still very much in the back of my mind. It's something very hard, but I tell my students all the time, I'm like, I talk about it because if it saves one life, it saves one life. I don't want to be at another funeral. They were awful. And knowing what promises those young lives had and what they could have been eats at me every day. So we ramped up our suicide prevention. I brought in Seize the Day. And I was fortunate because I had a principal who supported me on that. I mean, part of this is administration support. And then Kathy Rootman saw what we were doing, and she said, hey, we're going to be doing this youth mental health first aid training, or trainer certification. Would you like to go through it? And I had actually gone through a course that I had taken as what's called a first aider. So I was certified as a first aider because I told my principal, I think we should go. Number one, it's free. Principals love free stuff. Okay? It's Kentucky. Our budget's very limited. But it was a long day. It was 8 hours of training, and that's a long day for a lot of people, but it was so worth it. And there was a group of us, and we got so much out of it, and we brought it back to our school. And, took some pieces out of it, and then Kathy said, hey, what'd you think about it? I was like, I thought it was really good. And then a few years later, Kathy goes, hey, Kathy Rootman, Director of Student Services, and she said, we're gonna have youth mental health first aid certification training. I want you to go through it. Okay, what do I gotta do? Well, you gotta miss a week of school. Well, as a teacher, that's a lot. But if it's gonna save a kid's life, I'll do it. Okay, there's not a price on these kids. There's nothing I would not do for these kids. So I went through the training, and to be quite honest, having gone through the first aider training and then having to go through the certification training was a little rough because basically I had the same training 3 times. But it was worth it because then I could go out into the community with Tara, with Alan Mullins, And we could, and other trainers, and we could bring this youth mental health first aid training to the community. And it's free. It doesn't cost anything. That's like amazing, number one. Number two, yeah, it's a long day. But again, you could be saving a life. I mean, what's more important than that? Saving one life. And so we take you through the training, and we do some hands-on activities, some group activities, and we help you to recognize what is normal adolescent behavior, what may be abnormal adolescent behavior. We take you through, towards the end of the training, we actually take you through suicide prevention and awareness. What are the signs and symptoms of suicide? How to respond when you when you feel like, and you need to ask, or not even when you feel like, when you do have to ask that question, are you thinking about killing yourself? And the response you get, we take you through how to respond to that and how to get that person help. It's all about helping someone. It's all about saving a life. It doesn't cost anything, you know, and it's something that honestly, I don't know of any other districts in our state offering. And again, our district, I feel like, deserves kudos because they've been pushing this hard, trying to get people to sign up and come. And again, it's free. You know, we do an 8-hour day, and sometimes we do 2 4-hour days, and everyone's been trained. Everyone gets a book, which is great, because sometimes you just need to have something there. For some people, you just need to have something you can kind of look at. And there's lots of resources available, and you know, I think it's a tremendous resource. And again, it's free, and if you haven't signed up for it, I encourage you to go to the district website, look up the training dates. If there's no training dates listed, email Nicole Sofranco. She'll let you know when they are, and you know, you'll get an awesome trainer. You'll get Tara, you'll get Alan. You might get Nicole. I mean, there's a ton of really good people, and you know, we just want to make sure people understand mental health awareness and suicide prevention. You know, my students always say, Ms. Dorgan, you get us. You listen to us. You know, I wish my parents would listen. My parents just talk at me. They don't listen. Or I've been battling depression and I get tired of hearing, get over it. You know, or you're just being difficult. I'm not being difficult. I really can't get out of bed because I don't have the energy because the depression's impacting me. Or, you know, yeah, it's really hard to go to school when, you know, you just feel like something bad's gonna happen and you can't do anything about it, and you're just on edge, and I can't turn it off, and I don't know how to turn it off, and I'm not trying to be difficult, so don't tell me to get over it, just listen to me. So, you know, again, it's a good resource, and, you know, whether you're a parent, a teacher, you know, an auto mechanic, a welder, my dad's a welder, you know, you can go through this, and it's such a good thing, and it not only applies to your kids, but it also applies to others. I mean, yeah, our focus is on youth in our high schools, but, you know, I got the statistics right here that in Kentucky, on average, 1 person dies by suicide approximately every 11 hours in our state. And that suicide is the 11th leading cause of death overall in Kentucky, and it's the 2nd leading cause of death among our adolescents. So, you know, let's utilize all our resources, and if there's something out there that's free, is research-based, which Youth Mental Health First Aid is. It's not like someone just came up with this. There's research to support it. Why not take advantage of it?
Also, to add to that a little bit, I have done several trainings, and sometimes they're mixed up, like, you know, just a bunch of different people, parents, coaches, all that. But we've done it for a Boy Scout leaders in the area. We've done it for churches. We've done it for first responders. We've done it for a lot of different people. So it definitely can be one of those things that could apply to pretty much anything. And the purpose, like Tammy said, is just we have CPR. Everybody knows what that stands for. So why don't we have first aid for mental health? And that's what it does. And we teach you 5 steps to go through in that process as a first aider until you can get them to the professional they may need to see.
And, you know, again, I have seniors in high school who take this course. They volunteer to take it, and they come out like, this was very valuable, and this really has helped me to help my peers, because I don't know always what to say. And, you know, they don't know always what to do, or they don't feel confident in themselves, and the training gives them that confidence. And if a teenager who's 17 or 18 can do this, then why aren't adults?
it's something to think about. And it's not just at Ryle. Cooper's been doing it too. I've gone over Cooper and helped train their seniors. So, I mean, again, I encourage everyone to, you know, sign up and take youth mental health first aid. You know, I think it's a tremendous resource. It's something our district has right now that's free, and I feel like it's good. I feel like it's already saved lives. I know it's saved lives already.
Is there a minimum age?
Well, at least at the schools, they've been letting us deal with the juniors and seniors because of the material in terms of when we talk about suicide prevention. So I would say probably the minimum would be a junior or senior in high school that they would let take it. Ryle, we did it this year at Ryle. I don't know, Mr. Schlotman.
We've had it for staff, it's not been available for students. Yeah.
What is the district or what is Boone County doing now since? What's the district doing to help students out with, you know, helping prevent suicide? So, bring more awareness.
Well, we're having nights like this.
Okay. You know, my daughter was a friend of Abby's, and, you know, she struggles every day with that.
Well, I think there's a lot of parts. As I said when we started, a night like this goes a long way. So that's why we did this. We've talked to Amy about bringing her organization in to our school. We weren't able to do that this year, but our hope is that we can next year bring that organization in. The thing that I like to always tell parents and students and so on is that there are so many services available here that a lot of people just don't realize. We have 4 guidance counselors who are, I at one time was a guidance counselor at this school, so people sometimes look as a guidance counselor, you know, they're going to help me go to college and those kinds of things, applications, and our training as counselors was in counseling. I didn't take any courses on job or on ACT test applications or college applications. My courses were mental health courses. I think I could have taken one more course and been certified to work in an agency. So, you know, those individuals are available at all of our schools. We have a school psychologist that's here 2 days a week. Julie's here 2 days a week. And then on Fridays, we have a counselor here from North Key. So there's somebody in this building 5 days a week. I told Channel 5 about that unfortunately when these incidents happen, and I'll agree with you, I hope that never happens again. Because it's difficult on everybody, it's difficult on the family, it's difficult on the school community, it's difficult on the kids. When they happen, everybody, and I don't want this to sound the wrong way, but there is a flood of activity at the school. We had all kinds of things going here. We got all kinds of calls from parents and people coming to the sessions that we have here, and then that kind of fades away, and then you have a night like this, and there's, you know, I'm happy there's 10 people here. I wish there was 10 times 10 people here, so maybe next year there's more. It's just like a school shooting. Everybody thinks, well, what are you going to do? Why? You know, so there are lots of services available. We just can't always, people just aren't always aware of it. The biggest thing I always tell kids, I talked to a student today who's going through a difficult time with some issues at school. The important thing is that they know that there is some place they can go. My door is always open. I know the counselor's door is always open. And I think the most important things for kids is that they know that they have some place to go. And the way you do that is you build relationships with them throughout the school day and throughout the school year, so that you're somebody that they'll trust. I don't want them looking at my office or the assistant principal's offices as I go there when I'm in trouble.
Right.
You can also go there for help. So all 4 of us are down here during lunch, a 2-hour lunch block. And quite honestly, I don't have 2 hours a day to stand down here during lunch. I eat my lunch right up there, probably for 15 minutes. The rest of the time we're walking around, talking to kids and so on. because it kind of builds those relationships.
Yeah.
You know, I had a girl last year at one point during the school year stopped me in the hallway right before school started. Can I talk to you? She just came to my office and there was a social media thing going on, pictures she and the boyfriend took that she shared with her best friend, and then they had a fight, and then the best friend was going to send them to her parents. And, you know, we dealt with that situation, but I was more happy about the fact that she came to my office and she stopped me in the hall. So, incident 2 years ago, we came back from Christmas break, and there was a parent and a girl at my office door. The girl had been gone the entire Christmas break month, didn't know where she was, and the girl said, "I'm addicted to drugs. We need help." So those things are there.
And I think we have resources in the district that kind of helped out with that too.
We did. We called on a lot of resources in the district and actually got her placed in the treatment facility in Louisville. So, I think it's, from our side of it, you just have to build some trust with the kids. They have to understand that you care, that you're, and I think there's a majority of our kids that feel that they can come to all of the administrators and tell us stuff that they're not necessarily going to get in trouble.
I just wanted to
How
add.
open is that? Like, do you guys like talk about that to the students a lot? Where
Say that again.
my daughter goes here,
Uh-huh.
she's a freshman, and she was telling me one night that a boy was messaging her that he was like wanting to kill himself and this kind of stuff. And I asked her, I'm like, well, tomorrow morning go to the school counselor and let them know what was what he was saying. Show them your phone. And so when I picked her up from school that day, I asked her if she went. She was like, no, I think he was just joking. He was fine today. So, like, how open are the doors for them to just come in and, like, maybe anonymously say something? You know what I mean?
They're wide open.
Okay.
We do class meetings at the beginning of the school year, individual class meetings with each of the grade levels, and a component of those meetings for all the grade levels are about this topic, specifically suicide, but we talk about in those meetings that any issue like that you can come to us about. And actually, when we did that this year, given what had happened here last spring, the students were very attentive to that. We give them a handout on suicide prevention, and we tell them that you can come and talk to us. You would be surprised, I think, by the number of students that do bring stuff to us. Messages. That day of those class meetings, one of the grade levels, a student stayed here and said, I need to talk to you about my friend because they're saying these things. So it happens, I think, when people know.
And I think also, not to like cut in, but as a parent and your child is saying this, I mean, I wouldn't hesitate to pick up the phone and call the school as well, because what's happening is the kids are kind of nervous too, maybe. Well, if I tell and he was just joking, I don't want to get him in trouble. But they're obviously feeling that this is not okay, so that's why they're telling you. And then in that case, I would take don't even let your daughter know that you called, but call Mr. Schlotman and say, hey, I'm not sure what kid it is, kind of keep an eye out for him, or maybe fish for more information from your daughter, get the name. Yeah.
She didn't like him and he liked her, and she didn't want to.
But your daughter shouldn't even have to deal with that guilt or that burden because she doesn't feel the same way about another student, that it gives him permission to say that. And just, talking, just the needs that are coming up, talking about healthy relationships. What are healthy relationships that you should be having as a student, as a 15, 16-year-old? No one should be making you feel guilty. We had a situation at Ryle where a kid was like tears, like on his knees begging us, I don't know what to do, my girlfriend's threatening to kill herself if I break up with her. And I think the reality of it is the students are facing so much more than we ever had to deal with. And they can't get away from it. My 15-year-old niece texted me and was like, this guy's saying that he's going to hurt himself. I don't know what to do. I think he's just joking. And I said, Iman, that's not funny. It's not something to joke about. tell an adult, if he was joking, he'll never say it again. If he needs help, he'll get the help he needs. And you know, to go back to one of your questions about what the district's doing and whatnot, the unique thing about Seize the Day is that we empower the youth to take a stance. This is something that they are facing. They have the ability. You know, I wish I could get into every school, and like Mr. Schlottman and I have been working on it this entire year, but like the school year is already scheduled and it's difficult, and they have like block scheduling and this and that, and I've come in 3 or 4 times and we've had meetings, but sometimes it doesn't align. So what happened at Ryle High School? From Seize the Day, you know, we came in every month and did workshops. The students said, we need more. And one of our biggest questions were, okay, if we did something after school, would kids have the support of getting a ride home afterwards? Would they have transportation? You know, if they feel so empowered, we don't want to stop them. But is it possible? So then Raider Alliance started, and the students that truly took a liking and a passion, whether they want to go to school for psychology, they're writing college essays about mental health, they are showing up. And, you know,
And some of them have even gone to start college chapters
Right.
of their own version of Raider Alliance.
You know, Raider Alliance. So how did that happen? You know, because unfortunately Ryle did have 2 suicides in the schools. Like, they started rap sessions, and that's when Seize the Day, I would come in, volunteer once a month, and we would do mindful activities. We would talk about mental health. We started with 5 kids, and ended up being 25 kids. And you see, you have this pamphlet in front of you. It's a list of letters. It's a compilation of letters that our rap students wrote because they were being interviewed about how do adolescents feel about mental health and suicide. Do they take it seriously, or are they saying things for attention? Well, these 25 students every month volunteered to come to Seize the Day workshop because it was important to them, whether they had a friend going through it, whether they were experiencing it, or they wanted to go to college. What was the common, you know, understanding amongst them all? We'd ask them. They finally felt a place. They didn't feel alone. And those students were like, you know what, we want to leave something behind for the rest of the students. Not everyone can go to the Seize workshops. Let's start Raider Alliance. And we're going to empower each other to start this organization. Bishop Rosser, they asked me to go into their school the other day. They have a club called the Kindness Club. And these 2 wonderful women sit down, they wrote letters to the entire school. I mean, I'm amazed, but they're feeling empowered and saying, it's also our responsibility. We know our school is trying to do as much as possible for us, but what can we do if it doesn't fit our schedule? What can we do because we care about each other? And these are beautiful things that are happening in Northern Kentucky. You know, and I tell them, I'm here. If Boone County wants to start a student-led organization, I'll come help. You know, that's why I'm here, because I facilitated Principal Schlottman, you know, Tara White, they're all teachers, they have responsibilities, parents are working so hard. So I'm free too. You know, I'll come in and volunteer my time to get these going. But I think what's happened is it needs to become a community effort, and not so much as what is the administration doing for us, what can the district do, it's what can we do for us. So, you know.
To add on to what the district is doing, our district actually has a mental health task force that's made up of school psychologists, school counselors, and I think I'm the only teacher on the task force. And, you know, our task is trying to roll out services to address mental health awareness and suicide prevention. And, you know, again, Youth Mental Health First Aid was one of those initiatives. The business cards that you guys received today is part of that task force. This was actually designed by a student, one of my students at Ryle High School. And all of these cards is going to go out to every high school and middle school student in the district. And for some people, this may not be much, but for that one kid who's maybe thinking about it, this could be everything. And so, you know, our district, as I said, honestly, and having gone to Ed Camp and talked to a couple different schools, like teachers at other schools, I can tell you Boone's doing a lot more for kids with mental health awareness and suicide prevention than a lot of the other districts in our state, which is sad and scary, quite honestly. And one of the big things that our district is working on right now, the Mental Health Task Force, and, you know, you could put this in your calendar, June 22nd and June 23rd, our district is going to have a mental health conference for youth. And it's going to be at Florence Baptist Church. And it's going to be all day Friday, all day Saturday. And they're going to have breakout sessions, and they're going to have keynote speakers. Dania's going to be there for Seize the Day presenting to students. It's going to be open to students, parents, teachers, anyone who wants to come. There's going to be Youth Mental Health First Aid. So if you're looking for some time and you're interested in this, you know, you could schedule those 2 days in your calendar as when you could take youth mental health first aid. And it's just, I mean, that's huge. I don't know of any other school district that's done a mental health conference where they address suicide. And they're also, you know, going to address school shootings too. They'll have Sandy Hook Promise there. So, I mean, there's all these resources. And, you know, our district has done a lot in the last few years. And I like to say, or like to think that I think our district is probably the leading the charge for the rest of the state. If we can do this, then really, quite honestly, any school district can do it. But we also need parents to help out, parents that are willing to step in when they can. And, you know, people like Dania in the community who have nonprofits that are willing to come into a school and say, how can we help? You know, where can we fit into your schedule? You know, what are we allowed to do? What, you know, and get the kids involved. How can we support the kids? What do the kids need? Because I'm telling you right now, your kids know what they need. They just need you to listen.
We also, one of our health teachers, Miss Petty, is also a certified instructor in the health training program. So now that she is certified in that, certified.
Yeah,
The only
and
other thing I wanted to add was that it kind of goes to what the gentleman said on the first question. Yes, a lot of people, students exhibit all those signs, or a teenager and those things happen. I think the most important thing to recognize is that as a parent or an adult or even a friend of the same age in the peer group, is to just listen, to see those things and observe those things. I think a lot of times adults and sometimes friends make the mistake and say, well, you know, that's just a teenager. They're going through teenager things, and we sometimes discount that. You break up with your boyfriend or girlfriend, parents are great at saying, oh, you know, go find someone. There's plenty of girls out there, plenty of boys out there. We sometimes don't take those things seriously. If your son or daughter was in love with somebody and in their world, they were in love. You know, I can remember being told by my parents, you don't know what that word means. I'm like, oh yeah, I do. So I think the most important thing, at least, you know, that age, is to listen and to communicate and talk. Sometimes I think parents are afraid to face that or admit that you know, maybe my child is having some issues, and just to be open and communicate and listen and take all those threats seriously. They're not jokes. I think that's probably the
It's okay to not be okay.
Can I ask a question actually to Nancy on our panel? Nancy has a really fascinating organization, 1 in 5, actually one that I truly admire and inspire. If I can be anything like her, I would love. So the fact that she's like sitting here, and I talked my ear off, but like you've been in this for 10 years, and over your 10 years, how have the schools responded to the curriculum? Like, can you give me a better understanding of what type of curriculum you're implementing in the schools and evidence-based how they're responding, and you know what the outcome is?
As I said, we've been doing this for 10 years, and it's every school is different. Every school is different. Marymount in Cincinnati probably has the best program in place. I live in Marymount, and I'm relentless there. But it's a layering process that happens. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow process, and it starts very basic. It starts with the language. It starts educating about what the language is, and then you just start layering on programs. It takes a commitment from the school to do it. It takes a champion in every single case. But the results are incredible. Like Marymount, they do a program called Signs of Suicide. They also do it's called the Hope Survey, and the Hope Survey is a national survey, and it looks at how hopeful are the kids, and they know that in the 8th grade and the 10th grade are where their valleys are. So they do Signs of Suicide during those 2 years. I was at the junior high last week. That class is 120 kids, and 24 kids got identified as needing help. Now that's on top of the kids that are already getting help. So they have a mental health professional who is in the building every day, someone like Catholic Charities. In their case, it's Child Focus. That person is there. Most of the kids have already been identified, but an additional 24 were identified on that screen. Last year, they did it at the high school level. There was a girl who was on no one's radar. She was a rock star. She was, you know, like 4-point-something average. She was an athlete. She was really involved. And they actually had to call the Life Squad. And they know that, they said for a fact that if we would not have done this, we probably would have lost her. So it's education. It's like you have to have a champion, and it's a layering, slow process. Marymount, it took 7 years to get to this point. But like I met today with Madeira, and Mind Peace is an organization that's in Cincinnati that works with the social service agencies. They're putting counselors into school, and we work really closely together. So today, both of us were in there. We were there for about 3 hours today, and we sat down and we said, tell us, we want to understand your culture. We want to understand what's in place. We want to understand all the barriers. And then our programs that we're looking at that are in that booklet that I gave you, those are all evidence-based programs that we've done the research on. And it's, again, it's a layering process. It's doing social and emotional learning. It's doing mindfulness. It's educating about the signs and symptoms. It's doing screens. It's, you know, it keeps layering more and more serious as you go along.
But it seems like the steps that you take is allowing the student or the youth to reconnect with themselves.
Yeah.
Every layer that they go, and I think that's
Right.
so important because as lost and disconnected as you may feel to your child, I guarantee you they're feeling the same way.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to navigate their way back.
Right.
So it seems like your program really teaches them.
Well, you know, like in Marymount, one thing that they're doing is they call it mastery classes. And so it's teaching kids that there's more to life than just their academics. It's teaching them that they have other skills, and let's discover what those skills are. Let's find your joy.
Right.
Where do you find joy in some other way? And that there's a class that's part of the curriculum. So every Friday afternoon they do that mastery class. And it's just those kinds of things, but it takes time, you know, and it's just having that person that's a champion that is very, very adamant that the whole culture has to change. And it's not only in the school, it's a community thing. Like today at Madeira, we were talking about what's the culture in the community. What are your biggest barriers? Who are those people? And it's like, it's being very honest.
Yeah.
I mean, in some communities, Marymount, it's the moms, you know, and it's, how do you break through that group of moms that's saying our child has to be perfect? You know, you have to get to that group of people, and you have to be brutally honest.
Honesty is the best policy.
Yep.
Eric, can you speak a little bit about resiliency goal the district does? It's kind of similar to what
We have been in a pilot program for some research-based information about resiliency. So we've spoken about that a little bit, but it's about coping skills and different things. And the students take this at the middle school, high school, and at the elementary school level. And based on those results, we identify students who have identified at-risk behaviors for self-harm. We identify students in different categories, whether it be anger, depression, anxiety, and we get those results and we're able to kind of like address those needs. The resiliency poll itself is kind of a newer measure, so we're still kind of getting our feet underneath us with the information we're getting from it. But we have a plan that if a student identifies with self-harm, we meet with that student and we initially address what that looks like and are they safe? And then after we meet with the student, then we meet with them and we make a plan for them about goals, you know, future focus type things, different things that we, you know, we can work on with that student, and we will meet with them at a minimum of 3 times that school year, depending, or more, or refer them out, or and different things like that. Additionally, we call the parent when we get those results, and we let the parent know, you know, hey, this is what's going on, what are you seeing at home? So we make that home school connection as well. And then those that identify red, which is high risk in other categories, or high risk overall for mental health needs or services, we meet with them and try to get them refocused and what do we need to do and how can we help, and then help them make some goals as well. So it's definitely individually up to how the student responds and different things like that. We're finding that we have a lot of students that we need to meet with, and there are those rock star students that we meet with, that the parents, that wasn't on anybody's radar in our building, not here. And my example came from the middle school because I work at 2 schools, but where we have several mental health professionals at the middle school I work at, and a lot of services, and really no one had this student on their radar at all, not even the parent. And so it was definitely one of those situations where I think where we realize that mental health needs in general, the idea of suicidal ideation or feelings of self-harm, whatever it is, it knows no bounds in terms of IQ, academics, athletic ability, socioeconomic status, race, culture, religion. I mean, it definitely is a wide, and I think that's why reducing the stigma is a big thing for me. Getting it talking. When I call a parent, I ask them first if they have a moment to talk with me. I tell them why. I had to make a phone call today for a student that was expressing self-harm and the idea that they wanted to hurt themselves, and having that suicidal ideation, and I've known this student since she was in 1st grade, so it's hard to make those phone calls, but I'm very honest, I'm very direct. The parents know when I call, I don't always have to call just for that, but when I call, they know that this is serious, and it's very difficult because a lot of it has to do with the language, and are we talking to students about, and I'm guilty of it as a parent as well. I have a 10-year-old, almost 11-year-old, and I'm guilty of being frustrated sometimes when he's upset about something and not being the patient parent and kind of being like, just kind of suck it up, buttercup. We're all guilty of that at times, but just, knowing in your gut when something's not right, knowing your child and keeping those lines of communication open, and having those moments where you say, I get that you're upset, like, what can we do about it, and just labeling those feelings for them. We assume that people will just know that. So, but the resiliency pulse starts that conversation with the parents as well as the student. And so, as a district, I don't know how many more years we're going to do the resiliency poll, but I do know based on the Boone Aware, Project Aware, the mental health grant that we have in the county, we will always have a screener. So, and that's a big deal. So, we're leading the charge, and I get that. But I also get the fact that we have a lot of work to do as well, but you got to start somewhere. So I think that we're definitely ahead of a lot of the districts and counties in the state. So,
does anybody?
I was going to ask you guys if there was any kind of push for emphasis on healthy nutrition and proper exercise and kind of controlling the social media dependency, because those are all very closely linked with depression. If you guys are encouraging students to meditate and listen to their inner voice and do breathing exercises and stretching exercises.
Yes, absolutely. I teach psychology. Kind of feel like the hippie at school sometimes, but yeah, in my classes, that's encouraged. I know at the freshman level with our health and PE classes, they talk about proper nutrition. Our English classes are getting involved now with mental health awareness, and they're talking about the importance of meditation and just quieting your mind. I kind of joke with my kids. I always say, put the crack away, referring to their cell phones. And then they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, okay, well, let me go into the brain science here that's come out.
Right.
It's activating your dopamine receptors. So yeah, you are addicted to your phone. So yeah, I see that. So let's put it away. How do you feel after a while? Part of it is reflection too. And what they find is, you know what? This is kind of nice. I didn't have my phone on me for like a whole 20 minutes, and I feel so much better. So yeah, I mean, I feel like there's quite a few teachers in the district that do this, that push that meditation. You know, I tell them, you know, the way I grew up, I remember thinking, meditation, that's for hippies. Oh, that's weird. And I don't think I really grasped it until I started my counseling program. And, you know, the first time I meditated, I was a little weirded out, I'm not gonna lie, and I tell my students that you might feel a little weird. But then I started thinking about it, and you know, we have a strong religious community too, and I'm like, you know, meditation is the same as praying. Do you pray? If you pray, very similar. So that kind of helps break the ice a little bit. And then I tell them, you know, if you feel weird the first time, to me that's normal, because I felt weird. The first time I went for a massage, I was like, I gotta do what? Like, it was a little weird. But then afterwards, I was like, this is amazing. I can't believe I've been missing out on this all the time. So I tell the kids, yeah, you might feel weird or you might think it's weird, but once you try it, you're gonna be amazed at how you feel. And then they're like, you know, some of them are like, yeah, Miss Dorgan, I did feel a little weird, but I could see this. Or, you know what? I'm not very comfortable with this. Okay, well, what's something else you enjoy? Well, I run track and cross country. I love to run. Keep running. Because when you're running, do you have your cell phone on you? No. Well, that's awesome. Keep running. How do you feel? So yeah, I feel like there's quite a few teachers at our school that do it. I'm sure here at Boone County and all the schools they do that. When we do our rap sessions, we talk a lot about meditation and just other activities. You know,
we do mindful activities.
Right.
I mean, seriously, you like take a break from your day, and it's Valentine's Day, and we're like, we are going to write Valentine's Day cards to people that you may not think are going to get a Valentine's Day card, or someone you just want to make happy. And like Covington Latin, we do a series of workshops every month, and nutrition is one, you know? So your body is your temple. And if your mental health is at risk, then essentially everything else is at risk too. It affects your moods and your appetite, and what you put into your body affects your moods and your appetite and your nutrition. So, you know, we talk about what are healthy snacks to eat, and we brought in a bunch of trail mix, and we made our own healthy trail mix, because what it is a mindful activity is actually doing the motion. You know, like one of my therapists, so I go to therapy and I talk very, you know, proudly about it. It keeps me grounded. And so she's like, when you're making a sandwich, focus on making a sandwich. You tell yourself you're putting cheese on your sandwich and lettuce, because when you're not, you're driving, you're like, did I put mayonnaise on my sandwich? You're just not paying attention. So mindful activities, absolutely. I get a little more like flexibility with the workshops I do. So I try to touch on everything throughout the entire year, but by the end of the year, we've gone through, you know, nutrition, activities, mindfulness.
The importance of journaling.
The importance of journaling, and what students really understand is, at least at certain schools, they love statistics. Why is your cell phone bad when it's next to your bed, you know, and how does it affect your sleep? Because it has the same effects as daylight, and it's telling your mind it's now time to go to sleep. So, you know, it's not that we're like, put your cell phone away, you're doing bad things. No, it's harmful to you. You know, eating a burger and fries instead of, I don't know, a salad with grilled chicken literally affects your body and your energy level. Like, we're not doing it to be mean. We're doing it because we love you. Really, that's what it comes down to, is love and care.
Yeah, I was gonna say something that really helped me. I go to Northern Kentucky University right now, and one of my teachers at the very start of the semester, he had everyone in the class, nothing to do with the actual class itself, but he had us go through a series of stretches. And immediately, like after everyone participated in that, the entire class, like the whole vibe of the room was totally different. And even if it's something as small as that, like encouraging like teachers in all the schools, like in morning classes, the first 10 minutes of class, like encouraging the whole class to do a series of stretches together or something.
Yeah, we've
to
done
like
things
really
like,
promote.
when the weather gets nice, we go
Weather gets nice. I actually take my kids outside and go for a walk on campus, and they love it. And we might do it at the end of class, or we might do it at the beginning of class. It kind of depends. And you know, it's just those little things. I mean, years ago, I went to, I forget what it was about, but it was some sort of PD I went to. That doesn't sound good that I forgot about it. But we went to an elementary school, and what was really cool is that this teacher, during the course of her lesson, would break up the lesson and put on music that the kids could dance to. and they would get up, and I still remember it was a dinosaur stomp because I had my seniors doing it, and they thought, at first they were like, what are we doing? But then they were loving it, and then they're like, can we do this, another one, and like they got into it. And I always tell them, part of that healthy self is, it's okay to be a kid again. It's okay to do things that you enjoyed, and, we pull out board games sometimes during rap and play board games, and, just getting our minds off all the academic pressures and putting in the big one, just getting away from that social media for a little bit, just, absolutely huge. Yeah.
There's some schools that we're starting, that Marymount is one of them, and they do a mindfulness period every single morning. They start the day that way. It's kindergarten all the way through high school. The kids have asked to start their afternoon that way too, so after lunch, everybody has about 5 minutes. They're now doing it before exams, and the kids are really seeing a difference. They're seeing that they can settle down. They know how to, when they're feeling anxious, they know what to do about it.
And when I meet with students individually, part of it involves education on the role that your physical health, just the relationship between your physical health, your mental health. So with that education then also comes, there are times, depending on what that student is presenting with, where I guide them through a relaxation activity of progressive muscle relaxation or guided imagery. And I've even done that, the other school, like I'm at another school, and I go in and do mental health awareness. It's a smaller school. And I did that with the whole class. Let's just take a break. Let's meditate, basically. And yeah, there was a very positive response. So just I've been harping on this point the whole time, but equipping them with tools that they can use, go back home and use on their own. Being more self-sufficient in dealing with stuff.
I mean, that's the essence of the foundation that I run is these are your coping, like you're feeling this way, here's healthy coping skills, and the whole point is creating, alternative avenues to something that is truly a temporary problem, and a permanent solution is not necessary. So, I mean, throughout what everyone is saying, I kind of just put it in a 60-minute, presentation, which is a lot. But what I hope for the schools to call me back in to do these mindful activities, and it's not slapping a Band-Aid on and hoping that it heals. It's a progress, it's a process, like Nancy and everybody else has said, to really work together. But it has to come from a level of demand, and I think if the parents support it, the staff and administration will love it even more. It's a team community effort. Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate everybody coming tonight. I think this was a good first step in the right direction, and definitely something that we want to expand and hopefully do maybe more than once a year or just once a year, whatever the need may be. I want to thank the panels and the panelists for coming. We definitely they were very patient with us when we were planning and trying to figure out exactly how we wanted this to go, and they took their time out of their night to come, and we really appreciate it.